Atlanta, a red carpet stretching all the way from Phillips Arena to the Alamodome was laid out for Kentucky. The Wildcats had the most talent, by far, of any team left in the South region. They were clicking. They'd won 5 in a row, starting with their first game in the SEC tournament. They started 5 future NBA players and brought more off the bench. Judging strictly by the eye test, Kentucky should have waltzed through 2 games in Atlanta and headed to the Final Four, where the Wildcats might find opponents with more similar rosters. Given that, the 5th-seeded Wildcats 61-58 loss to 9th-seeded Kansas State in the Sweet 16 seems fairly shocking. But the eye test doesn't take into account a season's worth of data. This was not a great Kentucky team. By Kentucky standards, it was just okay. The Wildcats finished 4th in the SEC. After a loss at Auburn on Valentine's Day, they languished at 6-7 in SEC play. The following day, Coach John Calipari asked fans on his radio show to direct their ire toward him instead of his youngest team ever. Which, given Calipari's rosters over the years, is really young. Looking at what happened Thursday through that prism, it doesn't seem so surprising at all. The team that finished 4th in the Big 12 beat the team that finished 4th in the SEC by 3 points. That 4th-place team from the SEC won the conference tournament and made it all the way to the Sweet 16, which seems like a fairly successful postseason given the middling results during the season. The brain can process that information in print. Where it feels so much less logical is when the eyes look out on the court and see Kansas State, with its leading scorer, 6 feet 10 inches forward Dean Wade, out with an injury, and 3 forwards, Xavier Sneed, McElmawian and Levi Stockard, 3, on the bench with 5 fouls, playing 5 guards against a Kentucky lineup that uses 6 feet 9 inches. Kevin Knox on the wing and only gets bigger inside the lane. We were playing with 6 feet 4 inches and under, and they're one of the biggest teams in the country, Kansas State coach Bruce Weber said. But we got big rebounds down the stretch, big stops. Guard Barry Brown Jr. called it probably the smallest lineup we've ever used, but it was good enough to earn Kansas State a berth in the Elite Eight against No. 11 seed Loyola-Chicago on Saturday. And they got a daring layup from the 6 feet 3 inches Brown Jr. with 18.4 seconds remaining to break a 58-58 tie. Brown, who finished with 13 points, drove past 6 feet 6 inches guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and then arced the ball over the outstretched hand of 6 feet 7 inches. P.J. Washington. The ball bounced off the backboard and through the net as Brown crashed into the goal standard. Coach said someone make a play, guard Cartier Diarra said. Somebody had to make a play, and he did that. He is one of our go-to guys. He has supreme confidence. Are you kidding me? K-State takes the lead. Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the few Kentucky signees who wasn't a McDonald's All-American, had been Kentucky's best player all season. Gilgeous-Alexander, 15 points, 5 rebounds and 5 assists, drove for a layup to give Kentucky a 55-54 lead with 4:04 remaining. The Wildcats got a stop, and then Gilgeous-Alexander was driving toward the basket again. If Kentucky could score, it would finally provide a little cushion against a Kansas State team that had run out to a 13-1 lead early and held on the rest of the way. But Gilgeous-Alexander didn't reach the basket. He decided to kick out to a shooter, only he didn't throw it to a shooter. He threw it to Diarra, who raced down the court for a layup. Kentucky would take one more lead on a Washington layup, but Kansas State took it back with 2 Brown free throws. On the other end, Washington only made 1 of 2 free throws, forging the tie that Brown broke with his layup. Washington dominated everywhere except the line Thursday. He scored 18 points and grabbed 15 rebounds, but he went 8 of 20 from the line. We lost. I didn't play good at all, Washington said. As you saw, I went 8 for 20 from the line. I feel like if I would have made at least half of those, we would have won the game, said Weber. We had no answer for Washington inside. It was either foul him or not. We did. Afterward, Washington and Knox covered their faces with towels as they walked to the post-game press conference. A glum Calipari chided himself for not calling timeout after Brown's layup to calm his young team. That sequence led to a Quade Green airball that forced Kentucky to foul and allowed Kansas State to stretch the lead. Calipari still seemed stunned as he studied the stat sheet. Shot 35% and won a basketball game, Calipari said of Kansas State. My hat's off to them. I'm proud of my team. Had our chance to win, didn't play particularly well for us, but still had a chance to win. None of Kentucky's likely NBA-bound players were willing to discuss future plans in the immediate aftermath of the loss. Those decisions likely will get announced sooner rather than later as Calipari shapes next year's roster. Calipari has called this year his most rewarding season because his players grew so much along the way.